All right, as we continue on our Denver journey here, listen, this module is called You Can, but it's very specific because you can, but you can't without help. You just can't. All right? Listen, if you think you can be an army of one, and this is just experience and wisdom, all right? If you think you can do it on your own without help from others, good luck. I've never seen it done before, but if you think you can do it, knock yourself out. You can't be an army of one and expect to win. And listen, how do I know this? I know it through blood, sweat, and failure. Is what happens when you get successful in whatever realm you call it, and I've had my share of success, is you start thinking you're smarter than you are. And you start thinking you can do things because you're so smart, you don't need the help. You're just that good. And then you fail, all right? Every time I've tried to be an army of one, I've gotten my butt handed to me. And I don't want that for you, all right? So let me tell you a story about how extraordinary things require people around you to help you. Kind of like the quality friends getting you over. I also call it the great circle, all right? The great circle, it's a little bit biblical, actually, is doing things for others without wanting anything in return. We'll talk about this a lot more in the next module, all right? Because if you're gonna really achieve something extraordinary in your life and purpose and passion in your Denver, you've got to have people helping you get there. And the next module will show you how to accelerate it. But here's an example of how I took a Denver that to everybody seemed impossible, all right? About 15 years ago, maybe about 20 now, I had this dream. Gotta remember back when I was in college, all I wanted to do was be a military pilot or a commercial airline pilot. I wasn't allowed to be either because of my vision. It didn't stop me from dreaming because in my mind, I'm Maverick on Top Gun, right? I knew one day I could be Maverick if I was ever given the chance. And honestly, the military said, you're not gonna be Maverick. So I just had to stay with that dream and fly myself privately and learn how to fly as a normal pilot. Well, again, I still was like, you know what? Someday I'm gonna get myself in a fighter jet, all right? And I actually was able to accomplish that in an F-16 way back in the day, but I wanted more. I thought, you know what? I wanna do something no one gets to do. So I thought, you know what, if I can't be a Navy Blue Angel fighter pilot, for those of you that don't know, look them up. Them and the Air Force Thunderbirds are the most elite flying group in the world. And you know, to be a Blue Angel or an Air Force Thunderbird is something extraordinary, extremely rare, and just happens to just a handful of people. And I wasn't one of those people, but I thought, you know what, I want to ride with the Blue Angels. So let me tell you how funny that is. About 30 people a year get the opportunity to ride with the Navy Blue Angels. Those names are like Tiger Woods, Dale Earnhardt Jr., you know, Tom Cruise, all these very special people. Steve Edwards, living in Clemson, South Carolina, is not on that list, right? But I was like, screw it. It's a Denver. And I don't know how I'm going to achieve it. I just have no idea how I'm going to make this happen. I don't know, but it's a Denver. All right? So now let's fast forward. Through the years, when I was running a newspaper as a publisher, I met a guy named Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham was my next door neighbor and a lawyer in my town. And he came to my office one day and said, hey, Steve, I'd like to get into politics and I'd like your help since you run the newspaper. And after we talked for a few hours, I was like, I like you and I'd like to help you. And I have nothing in this but wanting to help a guy get better. So I supported him with everything I had. And sure enough, he got into the world of politics as a state representative. Then I just got out of his way. And Lindsey did what Lindsey does and got bigger and better and faster and became a U.S. Congressman. And then he became a U.S. Senator. All right. And now he's probably, I'm guessing, one of the fourth or fifth most powerful people in the world. All right. But Lindsey never forgot how he got his start. And at his 20-year anniversary of being a politician, he publicly thanked me profusely and embarrassingly for being the guy that got him the start that he never would have had without it, right? It's good to have friends in high places. Did I know it was going to end like that? I had no idea. I was just helping a guy because it was the right thing to do, all right? But the great circle comes around. And here I am with this big, hairy, audacious goal of a Denver being to ride with the Navy Blue Angels. Well, one day I meet a Blue Angel and I'm like, hey, how do you do this? Again, he gave me a clue. He said, I don't have the power. He said, I don't have the power to get you into the Blue Angels, but I can tell you the directions on what it takes to make that happen. And so he gave me the how-to list, all right? So I took that list and I started learning, and this is years of, I didn't harp on the fact that riding with the Blue Angels was one of my Denvers. I just knew it was something that if the possibility ever came, I would do it. So lo and behold, Lindsay proceeds through the ranks, because by the way, no one ever asked me how I was actually able to do what I wanted, which is ride with the Blue Angels. So I called my friend, Lindsay, and I'm like, Lindsay, I need your help. He's like, what do you need, Steve? I was like, I gave him this whole story about how I'm doing a lot of Blue Angel speaking and how I want to be part of this whole thing. We sat down for coffee and I said, I need your help. To really understand what the Blue Angels are all about, I need to ride with them. Can you help me make that happen? And I said, you just need to, here's my Blue Angel friend told me you got to call the Blue Angels and tell them, I'm worthy of riding with them and we'll make it happen. He said, Steve, he goes, I'll do better than that. I said, okay, what? He went ahead and he didn't call the Blue Angels. He called the Admiral of the Navy, the guy over all things Navy. I was like, oh my God. Well, the Navy called, the Blue Angels call me and go, you're in, brother. Okay. I went down to ride with the Blue Angels and they told me nobody and all of the celebrities and media they've had ride with them, nobody has ever come to the Blue Angels with that much horsepower. And you know what? They took me for a ride, for a 45-minute ride in one of their fighter jets. And it was an experience of a lifetime. It was an experience you'll never be able to take away from me. Was I a fighter pilot for the day? Yes. But it's just an experience that I'll cherish forever, that most people only dream about. See, that's my point to the whole story is, was it unachievable? Seemingly, yes. To most people, probably is. But for me, I just pecked along through the years trying to find avenues that when fighter jets and Blue Angels came up, I was like, Denver. And I pursued it to the point where I actually got in it. I'll never forget one of my friends who was a fighter pilot, went to dinner with him after that. And he said, Steve, I got to tell you, I've known you for 15 years. And for 15 years, you've been wanting to do this. And here you did it. And see, that's my point is, sometimes Denvers happen in hours, days, and months, and sometimes they take 15 years. But without that destination in mind, I never could have had an opportunity that most people only dream of. That's the kicker. You've always got to have these destinations in mind or you'll never realize them. Because had I not had the Blue Angels as a Denver, and I met that Blue Angel pilot that one day at a football game, I would have been like, cool, nice to know you. And Denver would have gone right by me. But I knew it was a Denver, and I was like, Blue Angel pilot, Blue Angel Denver, hey, next exit is the Denver for the Blue Angels. I was like, stop the bus, we gotta talk. And I broke it all down. Did I get the answer from him? No, but I got clues on how to get closer to that Denver. But again, if I wasn't aware it was my Denver, I would have never even seen the opportunity. That's why destinations are so important versus driving around out west wondering, where's my Denver? Right? They just go right by you because you never see Denver 60 miles, Denver 20 miles, Denver next exit. And then you never arrive in Denver because you never thought one is even there. The destination wasn't even visible. All right? See, and that's when you start having these little wins with your Denvers. Because again, you have more than one Denver. I have a Denver to go to Australia. I have a Denver to go to Asia. I've been all over Europe. I've fulfilled so many Denvers, right? Because I'm just trying to knock them down as opportunities come up. And when someone says, this happens a lot, hey, I just got back from Australia. I'm like, Denver, Australia, tell me, where do I need to go? What do I need to do? How do you get there? What's the best thing to do when all the questions I dig into when I'm aware there's a Denver. And then when you start achieving these things, this is why we call it seeing is believing. All right? There's two ways to go about this. One, once you start seeing that this is doable, here's what happens. All right? It's kind of funny. It makes me smile. I had the Goodyear blimp. There was a big football game going on here in Clemson. And one day I walk outside, the Goodyear blimp literally is flying over my head. Now, most people would go like, wow. I'm like, how do you get in that? How do you get in with the blimp? Now, I don't know how, but it's one of my Denvers. Because I'm like, somebody's in that blimp. Why can't it be me? And that's what I thought with the Blue Angels. That's what I think with everything. While most people are going, oh, that's not who I am. I'm like, how do you do it? How do you make that happen? You've got to get involved, like we talked about in the last module, and you've got to start doing things for others without wanting anything in return. The next module will show you how to really capture that. One last story here, because you've got to visualize it. You've got to truly believe it is possible. And here's just a story. Before I spoke to those 4,000 people, I'm speaking to 30 people. I'm with a mega church down at a big retreat down in Daytona Beach, Florida. And there was about 1,500 kids at this vacation Bible school. Now keep in mind, I've only spoken to 30 people. I'm only thinking speaking seems kind of cool. I really don't know what it entails, what it looks like. And I surely was not thinking about a career in speaking. I just wasn't. I was just starting. And everything seemed unbelievable. Well, I'm down at this church retreat, and before the kids were all eating, and my buddy's giving me a tour backstage of what it looked like. And we walked down on the stage where the band was going to be. All the setup was there. It was dead quiet. But in front of me was 1,500 chairs, empty. And he was just showing me the stage. And for the first time in my life, I'm on a real stage. And I'll never forget it. And this is, take it for what it is, this is just what happened. Is I'm standing there and he walks off. He's like, come on, I'll show you something. And I said, listen, give me just a minute. He's confused, but I'm looking at 1,500 chairs and I'm like, I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know how I'm gonna make this happen, but someday I'm gonna be talking to that many people. And I just stood there and I visualized it and I took it in and I was like, I don't know how, but I've got to dream it. And this is what I want to do. I want to see people seeing me. Little did I know, 3 months later, through a whole different set of events, I was standing in front of 4,000 people. All right? Dream it and you can achieve it. Listen, I didn't know how. And every time I go to a corporate event now, by the way, where I'm speaking to hundreds, if not thousands of people, I kid you not, I go in the night before. I don't tell many people this. I get into the room that's always set up because I'm speaking in the morning typically, and all those chairs are empty. All those tables are set. And I get on the stage and I stand there and I see it. I see the people that are going to be there tomorrow. I see them. And I visualize me being there. And I, honestly, God, I will just kick into about the first 3 or 4 minutes of my talk in front of an empty room. I'm just going. No one's there. Because once I've seen it, the next day when I walk into that room and the thousands of people are sitting there, I've already seen it. I've already lived it. I'm just doing it again. That's what seeing is believing is so important for. You've got to visualize it. That's why if you ever seen an Olympic athlete, especially like the ski people who hit the ramp and they twist and they turn and they do all that, Watch what they do. Before they go down that ramp, they sit there in their brain and they work it all out. They do the whole move in their head. It's already done. And then they go do it. Okay? So listen, summing this up. You can't do your Denvers if you think it's all on you. You just won't. You've got to have people get you where you need to be. But you've got to know how to find those people. All right? You've got to believe the unbelievable. Like I did with the Blue Angels. And I can give you hundreds of stories. I probably will as we go through all this. All right? And more importantly, you've got to believe and visualize that you're actually doing it. Just like me when that blimp flew over my head, I kid you not, I can see me doing it. And so many people fail. I'm not going to be that ESPN reporter because that's just not who I am. Well, let me tell you what, that ESPN reporter just knows something you don't know. And these are the accelerators we're going to talk about in the next module, okay? I hope we're tracking here. I hope we're taking these Denvers and we're starting to realize, I know it seems impossible, but we've got to believe, we've got to visualize, we've got to see it. And we've got to realize, Edward says it's impossible, or it's possible. I think it's impossible, but I'm going to ride along on this train and see how to make these huge, hairy, audacious goals reality. Let's accelerate them in the next module.